It's Matthew Vook on your left, Zach Kitchen on your right, 4-color Loam versus Imperial Painter to get our day started here in Charm City.
And 4-color Loam plays a lot on its own turn. Planeswalkers, sorcery speed removal, creatures, and so forth. That's an element that could be really punishing in a matchup against Imperial Painter, which is a deck that really stresses your ability to interact at instant speed.
Well, you can tell that Zach Kitchen is very passionate about Imperial Painter, given the beautiful mountain and beautiful copy of Goblin Welder, a card that we do not see much of at all in Legacy, showing up here. I know that this was a really good one back in your day.
Well, this is probably the most powerful one-mana card that no one plays.
Yeah.
The deck building cost is really high. You have to be playing with a lot of artifacts, and you have to have artifacts that are valuable either coming into the battlefield or leaving the battlefield. So it's asking a lot in terms of construction, but the ceiling on this card is through the roof, and no deck in Legacy, in my opinion, leverages it better than Imperial Painter.
It has always been strange to me that a card like Goblin Welder, that is obviously so powerful, has just never found a home in Legacy at all, where everything is enabled.
Yes.
You know?
I mean, Legacy lets you do a lot of really powerful things without having to build specific decks. And so the cards that are really powerful but require a specific deck often fall by the wayside. Goblin Welder at or near the top of the list.
We're going to see Matthew Vook sacrifice a couple of fetch lands to find a couple of dual lands here. It looks like in Badlands and Savannah, and now there's a copy of Punishing Fire to take care of the Goblin Welder, so not going to let that get started as we head back over to Jack Kitchen. It'll be a City of Traders. It might be time for a Blood Moon. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That is delightful.
There is one of those.
One Blood Moon?
One Blood Moon. Kitchen's build here is red splashing white. He has an Enlightened Tutor package, so he's de-emphasized the Blood Moon effects a little bit. No copies of Magus of the Moon in the main deck. One copy of Blood Moon that he wants to dial up at the right moment, but happened to draw it in the opener, and it's going to be excellent here.
Well, when you've got a Blood Moon, that means that having City of Traders isn't so bad. Blood Moon's going to make sure that stays on the battlefield. Ancient Tomb's not going to deal him any damage, and now we're going to see Imperial Painter, at least one half of it, Painter's Servant, going to name blue, unsurprisingly. It's going to turn on those Red Elemental Blast and Hydro Blast. And for Matthew Vook, a deck that actually does destroy some lands and do some other unique things, not going to be doing much of anything this game, given the old Blood Moon that's on the battlefield.
It'll be interesting to see what the workaround here is for a Chalice for one, because you can't cast Grindstone, Goblin Welder, or Enlightened Tutor. Those are the easiest ways to assemble a kill from here.
Well, we got a Life in the Loam here. Life in the Loam's going to get back a couple of fetch lands, which at the end of the day are just going to be mountains as we head back over to Zach Kitchen, and maybe that little Painter Servant's going to have to deal 20. How about that? Here's another Painter. Going to be blue as well between them. That's why you'll see the little blue cube put between those two Painter Servants, and in for one. Going to be start to be two after a little while here, but you do mention the Chalice on one, going to prevent Kitchen from casting Grindstone and those Red Elemental Blast effects along with Goblin Welder and Enlightened Tutor. Jeez.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure he can combo out from this position. Now, he plays with enough creatures that he can win kind of manual style. I'm not optimistic about that game plan over the long term because Vook has a couple of ways to navigate through this Blood Moon. He has Green Sun Zenith, which I believe he's about to cast, and that's a way to start breaking out of this lock. He also has multiple copies of Mox Diamond in his deck. If he draws a Mox Diamond, then his hand's largely unlocked.
Well, it looks like it's going to be a Green Sun Zenith here for two, and that leads me to believe there might be a Kasali Pride Mage hanging out in the deck somewhere.
There is not.
Okay, I'm curious what two is going to get
Gadok
here,
Teague, Scavenging Ooze.
Scavenging Ooze on this battlefield. I guess he can make that into a 3/3, and that would be a brick wall.
Well, the other part of it is if you assume that Kitchen can't combo off through a Chalice for one because he can't cast the missing combo piece, even if you can't identify the card, one route that you could imagine is that Kitchen has some way to backdoor the Grindstone through the graveyard in some form or fashion, and Scavenging Ooze cuts off whatever that line is.
Okay, well, that's what Vook is going to assemble, at least for right now, as he'll draw a card for the turn. We're in a very weird game to kick off our first round here in Baltimore. Round number 10 is now Here Comes the Ooze. I'm going to eat that Welder, going to turn to a 3/3. And now we're in a racing situation, at least that's what I'd call it. As there's another dual land that is a mountain because of the Blood Moon. So now Kitchen will draw a card. He's drawn a copy of Red Elemental Blast. As here's an attack for 2. Again, Red Elemental Blast with the Chalice in the battlefield, not going to do much of anything. Now, of course, we might see Jack Kitchen test Matthew Vook here by casting a one-mana spell.
Got it. Well, the problem is, the best thing that you could do is Red Blast the Chalice.
Let's ignore that.
But then you're putting a spotlight on it.
You are, yes.
So you got to Red Blast. You got to open up the bidding with a Red Blast on something else.
Sure.
And then maybe get to the Chalice later.
Now, Kitchener's
It's complicated. It's really complicated.
Yes, it is. Kitchener's drawn a card that I was hoping he would draw because I want to see it in action here in Legacy, especially in this situation. It's a copy of Smuggler's Copter, a card that was, of course, banned in Standard. We didn't get to see much of it. Doesn't see much play in Modern at all. So you can say the same thing for Legacy, but it's here right now, and he's got 4 copies in his main deck here this weekend. 2 mana, 3/3. I can't believe I have to read it, but for what it's worth, it just didn't see that much play before it was banned. Excuse me, you saw a ton of play, but it wasn't legal very long. 2 mana, 3/3. Artifact vehicle flying. When Smuggler's Copter attacks or blocks, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Crew of only 1. As here's a copy of Imperial Recruiter.
And this actually kind of gives some credence to the line that Vook took earlier of getting the Scavenging Ooze, because Smuggler's Copter suggests that there's a way to kind of backdoor through the graveyard. I don't think there's another way to do it in this list besides the Goblin Welder. I suppose he could try to get to a spot where he's discarding the hand size.
Sure. I do like that Kitchen's deck does have some backdoors it can go through. Chalice, for one, is obviously problematic, going to cut off a decent amount of his deck, but he's found a Copter. He's found an Imperial Recruiter. That Recruiter's found a Walking Ballista, which at this point, I'll tell you what, if you don't have your Walking Ballistas, you better get them. This is a multi-format all-star. Yes, it's about to rotate a Standard, but it is going to see play in Modern, Legacy, and I think it already sees play in Vintage in shops. This card's unbelievable, as Grindstone's going to be the discard. Don't need that anymore. Jack Kitchen just says, I think I can just attack you to death.
I mean, if Vook can't find a Mox Diamond or some other basics here to break out, he's way behind on the battlefield.
And Vook is just going to have to pass the turn back without an attack. Now, that Scavenging Ooze, as good as it is on this battlefield, it's not good enough to stop Smuggler's Copter and the fact that it flies, as another copy of Painter Servant is a draw. There's a Lotus Petal for Jack Kitchen. And it looks like we'll crew and attack. And Vook says, I can't beat your Smuggler's Copter. I've got no outs, no answers, so I will concede the game. Jack Kitchen's going to win game number 1 here over Matthew Vook. Imperial Painter off the back of a very powerful Blood Moon, going to take care of 4-color Loam, at least the first game, as we turn our attentions to the sideboard. And you're going to find some goodies here for Matthew Vook. This is part of the appeal of playing this 4-color Loam deck, is you get access to 4 different colors of mana, so you get to play a lot of different spells. 4 Leyline of the Void, 2 Golgari Charm, 2 Thalia Guardian of Thraben, 2 Swords of Plowshares, and some interesting one-ofs here, mostly Planeswalkers in a Johnny Vengeant, Garruk Relentless, Liliana the Last Hope, a Reclamation Sage to Greensun Zenith 4, and the Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale.
Well, anything that can blow up an artifact or any interaction for creatures at instant speed, I think, is really important here. The 2 copies of Swords of Plowshares and the Reclamation Stage. I don't think Kitchen uses enough of the graveyard for Leyline of the Void to come in here, so I would probably leave it at just about that.
We go to the other side of things here with Jack Kitchen and his Imperial Painter deck, checking in at 7-2 early this morning with 4 Surgical Extractions and 4 Pyroclasms. And a handful of one-ofs here in Blood Moon, Grim Lavamancer, Red Elemental Blast, Tormod's Crypt, Containment Priest, Viashino Heretic, and Old Dungi, Dungar Hedgemage.
So I would bring in the extra copy of Blood Moon here, given how vulnerable Vook appeared to be against it in Game 1. And the Viashino Heretic and the Hedgemage here to have a little bit more of an answer to Chalice of the Void.
Well, those are the options there for both players. Game number 2 will be underway here momentarily. But let's talk about the StarCityGames.com weekly sale, where you can save up to 20% off of some fine singles.
And make sure to be heading back to the website once a week. A new sale with new categories goes up every Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, over at go.starcitygames.com/weekly sale. For a limited time remaining, up to 20% off select Legacy and Vintage singles.
We get ready here for game number 2 in just a moment. Again, do remember, we've got a lot of things to go over here this weekend. We'll be talking about plenty more Guilds of Ravnica cards, as that set's set to debut pre-release next weekend. And speaking of that pre-release, we do have an awesome pre-release playmat for our participating stores. That, of course, is Meals on Steel. That pre-release is next weekend, September 29th and the 30th. We want to make sure that you are able to get this awesome playmat. So head over to go.starcitygames.com/pre-release. This exclusive playmat is available at participating stores. It's our Meals on Steel playmat, the newest addition to the StarCityGames.com Creature Collection. But we'll be talking about plenty of cards from that set in Guilds of Ravnica. I talked about quite a few yesterday. Didn't even get close to covering as many as we can.
No, our list has plenty of cards not checked off.
Yeah, so we'll go through quite a few of these. We, of course, want to hear from you at home that have joined us early this morning, all day long, at SCG Tour, hashtag SCGBALT. Speaking of at SCG Tour, Nick Miller is going to be live tweeting all the results in the feature match area. So if there are a couple people that you're interested in finding out how they're doing, make sure you do follow at SCG Tour. Nick Miller's on the case. He'll also be bringing us a metagame breakdown as well for our players that have made day number 2 of competition. For those of you wondering what's doing well here in Baltimore in Legacy, I'll give you an idea of that, but we know the 4-color Loam and Imperial Painter, at least one copy of each in day number 2 here in Baltimore. And I guess we gotta finish off our bingo boards here too.
We do.
There was no Dredge 3 that game. Didn't dredge the Loam. Got screwed on that one. And I'm taking it personal.
Let me see. Oh, do I get player locked out by Blood Moon on that round? I mean, he kind of could play, but not. He didn't cast anything.
I give it to you.
Yeah, I would.
Unless it wins you the game, then I don't.
No, it's not. It's
okay,
not anything.
Yeah, then I give it to you. I mean, did cast a spell.
Listen, I'm saying that I'm not taking two lands that don't produce mana off of fetch lands.
All right.
Any reasonable person would describe, let's use a reasonable person standard. Any reasonable person would describe Vook, that game, as having been locked out by Blood Moon.
I was going to say, I don't know if you describe me as a reasonable person. I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
I cannot recommend doing that. Both these players are going to take a look at their opening hands. Matthew Vook will be on the play, and we'll see what he's able to put together here this game. It's a cold one here in Baltimore this morning.
Rainy.
Yeah, you see players with coats and hoodies on here. We're working ourselves into fall and soon enough winter here. We're almost into October this year. As Lotus Petal the draw here for Jack Kitchen. Rainy, chilly day here in Baltimore. As there's a Lotus Petal. Could it just be another turn 1 Blood Moon, folks? It's going to be a Painter's Servant. Naming blue, of course. Pass that turn back.
And looks like Kitchen is sitting on a red Elemental Blast in hand. That's one of the synergies of this deck. The Painter Servant sets to blue, and then your red Elemental Blast and Pyro Blast become 1-mana counterspell / Vindicate split cards.
Yep.
Really impressive. Also, in this format, it's not the highest cost to play with a bunch of red Blast main, as so many people are base blue.
Yeah, it's part of the appeal of the deck, really. Kitchen waiting on Vook, as there's a Wasteland. Vook did have a question about the Oracle text of a card. It looks like everything is cleared up, as the Painter's Servant going to come across here for 1. We'll see a Plateau. Get yours today.
Oh, yeah.
Get yours
Going
today.
up. Imperial Painter.
Yep.
Goblins.
Yep.
All the Plateau guys.
Wasteland.
Wasteland, that's still a goodbye.
Yeah. Price on that's never coming down. 1 more. Follow-up, Ancient Tomb. It's too bad. I didn't get to do that as much as I wanted to because it got banned so fast. I love Smuggler's Copter.
I do too.
It is not a fair card at all, though.
No, I don't think it's the worst place to spend that many points, but I can also sympathize with an artifact that ubiquitous not being the best thing to have in Standard.
How about Crew 2?
Sure.
How about that? I don't think Crew 3 is necessary, but Crew 1 is, come on. Come on.
Yeah, Crew 1 is kind of a joke.
Matthew Vook, 2 fetch lands on the battlefield here in Windswept Heath and Verdant Catacombs. After a little bit of wastelanding was taking place. He'll sacrifice the Windswept Heath. See what land he wants to search up. It'll be a basic forest, and now sacrifice the Verdant Catacombs. And it looks like a scrubland. And now there's a Dark Confidant.
Be surprised if this was good enough to warrant a red blast out of Kitchen. I think Kitchen's perspective is if Vook wants to draw some extra cards, that's all well and good. I want the red blast to fight over cards that actually matter or are disrupting the combo.
Got to crew the Smuggler's Copter, draw and discard. Here will Kitchen.
And it looks like he's picked up an Enlightened Tutor, which suggests to me between that and the red blast, I would not be shocked here if Kitchen went for the combo starting on Vook's end step.
And getting to it next turn, as here's an Ancient Tomb to play a Walking Ballista. Well,
sure.
Goodbye, Dark Confidant.
And again, the backup here is Enlightened Tutor, Red Elemental Blast, so Vook is going to have 2 pieces of interaction to get it through this, and his deck really does not do that frequently.
There's a Grove of the Burn Willows, and here's a Reclamation Sage.
And I think this is going to be a kill, as you can use the Red Elemental Blast to counter this, as it's now a blue spell. You have a lowest spell left over that allows you to Enlighten Tutor, and unless Vook can do something for 0 mana, that's the end of the game.
Plateau. And I think we'll see Kitchen here. Red Blast, as you mentioned. So he says, I want my Painter Servant, thank you. And will he use the Petal end of turn? Yes. And he's actually got the land in hand.
Yeah, he's got it all rolled up.
Got it all rolled up. You are correct.
Yeah, you need 4 mana to combo out.
Enlightened Tutor will find Grindstone. Grindstone will go on the top of the deck. That'll be the draw step, and you play a land. You play the Grindstone, you activate the Grindstone, and in combination with the old Painter Servant, adios. Combo we haven't seen for a little while in Legacy. Might be well positioned now, who knows. The format is certainly different than it was a couple of months ago with the banning of Deathrite Shaman, in a good way. As there's Grindstone, there's a land, there's the activation. I want to mill your whole deck, and that is going to do it. Jack Kitchen going to win this match over Matthew Vook. 2-0. Imperial Painter going to clean up 4-color loam pretty easily there for Kitchen. He gets his Sunday off with a win, up to 8-2.
I don't